to this latest edition of the Ril Dil Podcast on this 27th of January 2020. As we discuss, I apologize, I totally shouldn't say that. As we discuss the life and times of the legendary Kobe Bryant. But of course, I'm your host, Cyril Gerald-Quinn. Before we get into the Kobe aspect of this podcast, I just want to say my condolences to all the families, friends of the 9 members who died on that died in that helicopter crash. I do not, by any means, want to disrespect. Every life is equal. I don't care, money, fame, it doesn't matter. Every life is equal. So I want to make it a point to give those families pay those families their proper respects by acknowledging them. Their lives will never be the same at all, and it's just something that is just almost is unspeakable. It's something that that is still hard to put into words, hard to process. You wake up, go about your business, just like it's any other day, or thinking like it's gonna be any other day, and you just get hit with a ton of bricks in terms of this particular. It is still something that you just don't. There's no way to even fathom. Preparedness really is was overwhelming, to say the least. Watched a ton of stuff like yesterday, of course. And by the way, we are simulcasting this podcast. I'm on Instagram as well as YouTube. Of course, my YouTube channel is Ril Dil Podcast. I'm on Instagram Live right now. 24 and 8. He deserves multiple. He had multiple numbers, so he deserves multiple platforms in which we will discuss it. The life and the career of one Kobe Bryant. Certainly chime in. I have the. You can certainly chime in on both Instagram and as well as YouTube as far as any comments or questions. The chat line is open. I will, get to the messages as quickly as I can. So, certainly I welcome any conversation. What is your favorite Kobe moment? What are your thoughts about Kobe Bryant? As not only a basketball player, but even as a human being. And I think, one of the things, the things that came to mind to me about Kobe immediately, it wasn't the good stuff. It wasn't the good stuff. It was how he dealt with the adverse situations during the course of his life in the public, and both professionally and personally. You think about, and this is the easy one, Eagle, Colorado. I remember when that came out, and I was just like saying to myself, "This guy, he may never play basketball again." I literally thought there was a chance that he was going to go to jail. I really did. That was a real situation. That wasn't one of those situations where it wasn't about, he had money for, to pay, high priced lawyers, but he's got dropped, he settled out of court. And that was a real life situation. And again, completely at fault from the standpoint of, he may not have done what the initial, in terms of rape, but he cheated on his wife. And I remember the following day, it came out on a Friday. He comes out Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, wife in hand, holding hands in a press conference, and he took And I'm like, I was saying, remember, at the time I was in DC, not living, but we did a road trip down DC. And I remember it was 2003. It was July 2003. And I was just like, saying to a couple of friends of mine, there's no way a day after that I would be in front of the cameras. Yeah, there's no way. I mean, you got like people already, rapists. You should be locked up. I mean, just like his Louis already being dropped from major endorsements. Um, he was never going to be considered the complete face of the league in terms of in terms of the level where Jordan or was at prior to, or where LeBron is at right now. That wasn't going to happen considering where it transpired. But he took that, and again, one of the great comeback stories of that you can imagine, as far as it was like, all right, got to go travel private jet, come play these games, got to eat. He had to eat all of that as far as his public perception, and did not, again, clearly his fault. Didn't run away from it. Didn't hide behind publicists. Didn't hide behind not speaking to the media. Didn't hide from that standpoint. He dealt with it head on. He dealt with it head on in the beginning, like that initial day after. I'm talking about that day after. Now there were times he did not speak to the media as the trial's going on, and he's going back and forth, what have you. He kind of was in his own world from that standpoint. And he had some issues with reporters who said things about him and what have you. Shelley Smith talked about that earlier on Sports Center, how they went 12 years without speaking. She was covering that case like day in and day out. She was the main pool reporter for ESPN at that time with on the coverage of that case. That was the first one. The second one was the Shaq split in 2004. So they lose the finals to Detroit. They get knocked around. It basically was a 5-game sweep. They trade Shaq. He gets blamed for Shaq being moved, and he had to eat that for the next. That was a 2004 season. For the next few years, he had all kinds of scoring binges. Shaq wins the championship in 2006 with Dwayne Wade, and he basically from 2000 and from that season on, from that 2004-2005 season up until 2000, it took the Lakers 3 years until they got to Paul Gasol. Until they got Paul Gasol, and some of those younger players started developing. It took them 3 years to get three and a half years to basically get back in title contention. And he had to hear, you can't win without Shaq. They lose to Boston 2008, getting, in 6 games, including 39-point loss in game 6. And it wasn't until he won those back-to-back championships in 2009 and 2010 where he just, carved out his own niche as an absolute iconic all-time great. And then, of course, you have the Achilles tear in 2013 when he was 34. And at that point, he had nothing left to prove. It was just a matter of him trying to go after ring number 6, maybe accumulate some scoring feats as far as maybe he had an outside chance of possibly catching Kareem. Talked about playing till he was 40. I remember that. Talked about playing till he was 40 because up until that point he didn't have a major injury. Tears his Achilles, and I think he did it in mid-April. I want to say early to mid-April. He was back the following November of that same year. We've seen Achilles take guys out, not only for their careers, but take guys out for entire seasons. Kevin Durant will not play this season with that Achilles tear. Comes back from that, breaks his kneecap, comes back from that, tears his labrum, comes back from that to finish out his career for 20 years. So it was during it to me that jumped out as much as anything of how he handled adverse situations over the course of his career. What he did basketball wise, I think speaks for itself. I mean, I'm sure you memorized the numbers and not numbers, but the accolades, the championships, the All Star appearances, and All Star MVPs. The one low MVP, even though he should have more MVPs. So the basketball stuff is kind of has its own place. I think I was talking to some people today about this. I think when you look at Kobe Bryant, you think impact. You think how could this one man, who's not even considered the greatest basketball player of all time, he's depending on who you talk to, he's definitely top 10. Some people have him top 6, 7. Some maybe you have him top 7 to 8, somewhere in that range. But how can one man impact millions upon millions and get this outpouring of love? And he was not trying to be and not a guy who was not trying to be liked. He was not trying to be liked. He was not trying to be revered. He was not trying to be loved. He was not that dude. Now people started seeing him soften up after he retired. But the majority of this love that you see came from the 17 to 20 years he was competing, and the 17 years he was near or at the top of the NBA. And he made no apologies for who and what he was, as far as in terms of as a basketball player. His commitment to the game. He was a throwback. The older players loved him. Guys who came up, the Michael Jordan era, Charles Barkley era, even the guy, Bill Russell, Oscar Robertson, those guys loved Kobe Bryant. Loved in terms of how he played the game. And I think that, I don't view, I don't like using the word hero when it comes to anyone outside of, actual heroes. You're talking about people in the military, you're talking about people who, save lives, policemen, firemen, and what have you, first responders, EMT. I'm not going to call Kobe Bryant a hero. But what I will say is he embodied a blue collar work ethic that anyone could, any of us could learn from, apply it to our everyday lives, and be successful with it. The passion of doing what you love and doing it not just to doing it at a level to where I'm in love with I'm in love with the process. I'm in love with the tediousness of the process. I'm in love with the work that people don't see behind the scenes. And then I keep pushing myself over and over and over until I perfect what I do. I get the most out of how much ability I do have. Be an overachieve. Guards are not supposed 6'6", 210-pound guards are not supposed to play 20 years in the NBA. It was unheard of for a guard during the time to come out of high school to play in the NBA. It's unheard of. Most of the guys that came before him were big men. Not Moses Malone, Darryl Dawkins, Bill Willoughby. Those guys were big men. Kevin Garnett. So again, he went against the grain, and like Frank Sinatra, he did it. He did it his way. He did it his way. Did you always like his way? No. Did I always like his way as a fan? No. But it didn't matter because at the end of the day, he was going to do whatever it took to win, not only on the basketball court, but in life. And you look at the transition that he's made um, post playing career. It is as smooth of a transition that you will ever see an athlete make. I mean, I predicted shortly after he retired, like he'll come back. He's gonna come back. He's just like Jordan. He has that. He'll take a year off, get his body in order. He'll be back. I just knew it. I mean, I was hoping against. I was hoping, of course, as a fan of his, all the years I grew up watching him and basically grew up a Laker and basically spend more years as a Laker than he. You think about it. He 20 years as a Laker. He had 20 years. He started as a 17-year-old. Started as a 17-year-old and spent more than up until the point that he retired. He was spent more than half his life as a Los Angeles Laker. He only lived. He retired at 37. He played in the league for 20 years. Put that in perspective for a second. And you had to. He gave. Kobe gave you everything. You saw it all. You saw the ups. You saw the downs. You saw him vulnerable. You saw him hurt. You saw him young. You saw him old. In terms of basketball wise, not certainly 41 is still young. Is young, but in terms of basketball wise, you saw him as the aging gunslinger who ran out of bullets, but still competed as best he could. And the thing about it, in regards to the type of basketball player he was, don't look no further. His peers, the other players revered him. They may not all like him, but they revere him. And just how it's remarkable how he just crossed so many generations of players. I mean, he comes in '96, playing against playing against Jordan. Jordan's last couple of years, 2 years against Jordan before Jordan came back. So he ended up playing against Jordan for 4 years. The post, the Jordan in '01 through '03. Played against Jordan '96 through '98. Played against Clyde Drexler, those guys, Barkley's late in their careers, Olajuwon's late in their careers. Then you have the Iverson, Vince Carter, Paul Pierce, Tracy McGrady, that group that he played against. Then you have the LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant, later on, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, that group, along with the likes of, the guy, along with, the Dirk Nowitzki's, Tim Duncan's. Like he played against, I don't know if there's been a player that played against that many great players that, were generations. Like you're talking like he basically played against, 3 generations of players. In terms of, and I mean generations, I'm talking about NBA generations, not, I'm not talking regular generations that in the terms of real life generations, but in terms of NBA generations, I'll look at the NBA generation anywhere from 5 to 8 years. He played against everybody, everyone. Grant Hills, Scottie Pippens, Penny Hardaways. Gary Payton's. Again, I love the fact that you saw that he encompassed everything. Everything. The fact that he went through some of the stuff he went through. Um, yeah, he was not a flawed. He was a flawed individual. We all, it's a newsflash. We all are. We are flawed. We all of us are flawed individuals. If you don't think you are, then that's a you problem. And now, you just wonder what else, what was next. And that's the thing about, when someone goes young, it is the most difficult thing that Kobe dies at 81, 75. You say, hey man, lived a full life. Got to see his daughters, graduate college and get married and dance at their weddings. It's one thing. But the best was certainly yet to come. Even though he lived in his 41 years, lived as full as life as you can possibly live and accomplish as much as you could possibly accomplish for someone. He did it all. But there was more out there for him. There was more out there. So it is. It's been a dark month for the NBA with David Stern, one of the pillars and one of the great commissioners of all time, passed away. 1st of January, and now you have this with Kobe Bryant. Rough time for the NBA. So again, the games will go on, but there's some people that you just can't. There's no. He will leave a void that just frankly will not be filled. You got to read. There's a reason why all the players coming up, whether it's the Greek Freak, whether it's Kawhi Leonard, all the whoever who's who list of players would go to them in the summertime to add to their game. That is not accidental. That is not coincidental. The players know. Game recognizes game. And you talk about just a outright passion for what you do. He had a stretch in his career where he played. It was an 8-year period where he played 612 out of possible 640 games. At about 38, 39, 37, 38 minutes a clip. Had seasons where he played well over 40 minutes. 3 of those years he played all 82 games. He had one in a year where he played 80. He loved basketball. He loved basketball. And there was never a night where if you went to a game to see Kobe Bryant, where you felt cheated, even if he shot 2 for 15. The last game I saw, I saw him one time. I think I put the post on Instagram, and you could tell there was some nosebleed seats, but it was close enough for me. I was up there, but I could still see enough of the action down in DC. They were playing, of course, the Wizards, and they won the game. And there was just, Laker fans were. It was a sold out game. There were buildings about 8% Lakers. It might have been higher than that. It was about 8%, absolutely 8% Lakers. He had 31 points. I took the free throw picture of him taking the free throw. And it was even in that game, it was just like, and I saw that, seeing him live. That was basically the end. I mean, he was this year 20, physically he's broken down, but that you know Mamba mentality, that competitiveness, that will to win. The team stunk. The Lakers won, lost like over 60 games. They weren't going anywhere. The last 3 years of his career, they were horrible. But it didn't matter. I mean, he was going out in a blaze of glory. Henceforth, and they're going to be playing a game tonight on ESPN, the 60-point game with Utah. His last game of his career against Utah. And again, they don't make them like that anymore. I mean, they don't make them like that anymore. As far as and I hate to sound like the get off my lawn, but they just don't. Players just don't have that mentality like that in the NBA anymore. As far as that just killer, as far as that throwback, I think the Greek is close. As far as that mentality, as far as he's a throwback, he doesn't fraternize with other players. We'll see if he can win some titles. I think the Greek competes every night, of course, but it's a rare air. I mean, Westbrook a little bit, but Westbrook doesn't play with the. Again, I'm not. It's not even fair to compare to like Kobe Bryant as far as intelligence and skill set and will and killer instinct and all those attributes that he had. But I just, looking moving forward with the NBA, it just don't look for the next Kobe Bryant. Just you can just treasure the Kobe Bryant that we had watched for 20 years. If you try to look for the next one, it's not going to happen. It's just not. But his impact on the NBA will certainly go on. Will live throughout the course of forever. I mean, he's that impactful for the league. You've seen Dallas Mavericks are going to retire his number 24. I'm not one of those that thinks that his number should be universally retired. You could say that for Bill Russell. You could say that for Jordan. I mean, you could say that for Kareem. There's a few iconic, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. You could say that for. Excuse me. So I'm not. Dallas. That was a tremendous gesture by Mark Cuban and that organization, which was number class to retire his number. Pat Riley did that to Jordan back in the day. Said nobody on the Heat will ever wear Michael Jordan's number. I don't know what the league. Now again, I don't know what the league is going to do as a whole to pay tribute to honor him as a whole. I don't think the league has to do something. I'm not going to put pressure on the NBA to do something that lasts forever, as far as jerseys, number retired, or anything like that. I do get the league credit for canceling tomorrow night's game. It was too soon, so they postponed the Clippers-Lakers game. If you haven't heard, that game has been postponed. So the league, let this thing kind of process, and it was just too soon. It was too soon for the Lakers to play a game following something like this. You saw players visibly shooken up, including LeBron James coming off the plane yesterday morning, or excuse me, yesterday afternoon. So that game is postponed, and again, rightfully so. But again, this is still difficult to even put into words. For me, I've been a Laker fan since '86, somewhere '85, '86. I was a Magic man. Had the 6 foot poster of Magic Johnson. When Kobe came along, again, me and Kobe are the same age, both born in 1978, 41. I grew up 30 minutes outside of Philadelphia. He grew up, on the outskirts of Philadelphia as well. That's about where, you both play basketball. That's about where the comparisons end, to be honest with you. But I felt, I laugh sometimes. My mother will always remind me, "Hey, oh, she was the same age as Kobe." Like, yeah, yep, me and Kobe are the same age. and she constantly reminds me that every time I get a chance to see her. And Kobe, had to grow on me because as a Laker fan, it's about winning. Like, we don't care about stunting. You're not worried about you coming out of high school. You're not talking. I'm not thinking about what you say you're going to do. It's about championships. Lakers don't hang. Lakers don't hang Pacific Division titles. They don't hang Western Conference championships. They hang NBA titles. So it took me a while to grab to kind of I heard what Jerry West said, and I respected Jerry West. And Jerry West said he was going to be an all-time great. And I said, all right. So when he got drafted, they made the trade. I had no problem with them trading D-Bach to get him. I trusted Jerry West. That's the summer, of course, one of the great coups of all time. You take Shaq away from Orlando, and then you draft Kobe Bryant, and that was, the rest was history after that. But he had to prove himself to me, especially after those air balls in Utah, especially after he sat the bench for the first couple of years, which by the way, he shouldn't have been sitting the bench for the first couple of years. Del Harris just wasn't a very good coach. I mean, Kobe Bryant was good enough to play right away. He played that, he shouldn't have sat as long as he did sit, but it probably would end up being the best thing for him as far as a motivating, as far as just building that fire that would go on to become the Mamba. But he went through some rough moments basketball wise. Those air balls in Utah, they got swept in 98 and 99, once by Utah, the other one by the Spurs. He missed a couple free throws in game one of the Western Conference Finals against the Spurs, and then it ended up going on to get swept. But he had his coming out party, of course, in 2000, especially that series against Portland, when Portland basically had Shaquille O'Neal in a vice in game 7. He goes out there, gets 25, 12, and had a couple of blocks, made all the big plays, and then had the moment, in game 3, in game 4 against Indiana. Shaq fouls out. He's 21 years old, makes all the big shots, and they go on to win that series in 6 games. So he had to win in order to really to garner my respect as a basketball player, as a great basketball player. Because again, when you root for the Lakers, you're used to seeing greatness. I saw Kareem, I saw James Worthy, I saw Magic Johnson. He had to go out there and prove it. And I was a Magic fan, and I will say, you asked me who my favorite, greatest Laker. You can go either way. You can go Magic, you can go Kobe. Even before this transpired, I leaned towards probably Kobe because of the longevity and how he won those last 2 championships. But you can go either way. I mean, I'm a Magic guy through and through. But again, this, if you're going to take anything away from, outside of, the obvious, I mean, life is short. But as far as, work ethic, as far as some of the principles, as far as just being curious about life, being curious, challenging yourself, getting out, stepping outside your comfort zone. There's a lot you can take away from what Kobe Bryant did, Kobe Bryant did. It's not about just being a famous athlete. It's not about the money. It's not about none of that. It's about, you getting the most out of yourself. Everybody, I think we all, in some ways, have to have a Mamba mentality, to be honest with you. I think all of us have it in us. It's just a matter of, are we going to bring it out? Or what's going to bring it out? Is it going to come out? So I see some people on Instagram, so shout out to them for joining the program. Again, this is a dark day for the NBA. It's something that the NBA, it's something that the NBA just, you lose somebody like that, the prime of their lives, who still had, with the daughters, and then with 4 girls. And again, you just thought that the best was still yet to come. But, now with the Lakers moving forward, it is clearly, reluctantly so, it is clearly LeBron's it's LeBron's now. LeBron has to be that that torchbearer of the franchise, and it's not. He has enough pressure on him as is. They're expected to compete for a title this year, but it's even beyond that. Even if he were to win a title, that's not. Nobody's going to forget about Kobe. But I think the responsibility now lies with LeBron as being that guy for the Lakers. And LeBron's LeBron. Has handled as much pressure as any athlete in the last 30 years. So I don't think it's a case of he can't handle it, but I don't think that he was anticipating that it would be, that it would go down in this fashion to where he, would have to carry, where he would have to carry that burden of being the it man for the Los Angeles Lakers. So we'll see what happens with that. That's going to wrap it up. Thanks for everybody for joining me, especially on Instagram. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Ril Dil Podcast. Again, you can catch this podcast anytime at Ril Dil Podcast on my YouTube channel. Go to itunes.apple.com. We're on Stitcher. We'll be on Blog Talk Radio as well. I'm out.